we've run this consistency series from the beginning of the month of May, and it has been going on and on. And today we have with us coach of the Masterful Speakers Class Institute, and he has been a wonderful coach, wonderful person. I brought him here so that he could share with us his experience on this speaking journey. Today being today's topic as how to be consistent in speaking. My first question is, what do you understand consistency to mean?
What I understand consistency to mean is keeping at it. Is, as we're told about focus, is following one course until successful. But that does not mean that you are not going to have downtimes. If you're going to be consistent at something, you have to just keep at it, regardless of whether you are able to keep at it or not. So what that means is this: consistency doesn't mean that you show up without ever having a downtime, but it's about showing up every other time after you have a downtime. It's about saying that I'm not going to do anything other. I'm not going to throw in the towel. I'm not going to give up at this. I am going to make sure that whenever people who need me, I'm going to be there to serve them. So that's what consistency really is about. It's about scaling the hurdles and making sure that we show up to be of benefit and of true significance and of great value to the people whom we serve. That's what I see consistency to be.
Wow, that's a whole lot. That's a great one. Thank you very much, sir. So, can you give a definition to what speaking is?
Speaking is a way of serving people through words. You know, I've always said that if you describe me as a speaker or as a writer or as a leader, you might be accurate but not absolutely accurate. First, you have to think about me as a thinker. Because you see, what is writing if it's not the expression of thoughts in written notes? And what is speaking if it's not the expression of thoughts in verbal tones? What is leadership if it's not the expression of thoughts really in a well thought out process and plan, so that people are rallied towards that particular goal, so that they achieve the goal in a way that things get better and the people also get better. So I would say that speaking is a way of serving people, transforming people, bringing joy to people, and bringing people to a new point of reality by using words that are so thought out so deeply, and words that help people to rise to the ideals of the way life should function. So several purposes for speaking, but it's a means of serving people and solving problems for people and helping to enrich the lives of people.
Wow. Speaking is a means to serving people and enriching the life of others. Wow.
Absolutely.
Well said. So, is speaking an habit, or a gifted talent, or a skill?
Wow. Is speaking a habit? I think we all speak as human beings, and if a human being cannot speak, then I think that human being has a disability. But I know it's often said that everyone speaks, everyone talks, everyone maybe even communicates, but only a few people connect. So people would say that there is a difference between talking and speaking. In other words, if you're a talker, then you just say things. In other words, you say things because you have to say something. But then if you're a speaker, you always speak only because you have something to say. So you are very intentional about what you're saying. So speaking really is going to be a habit, but then it's going to be a sort of intentional habit. It's something that is driven by passion. So you do it because there is a problem you don't want to see exist in the world anymore. And then because you are in the habit of helping people, because you care a lot about people, then I would say it's really the habit of helping people. That's what speaking is. And you know that you've got to help people from a point of liberating them from their mind, because as a man thinketh, so he is, right? So people often have the problems on their minds, and with words you can give them a paradigm shift. You can help them broaden their horizon, and that way you can move them to another level. So it's not really just the habit of saying words, but the habit of thinking in such a way that solves the problems of people, and then getting in front of people to help them discover the solution that you've discovered in your privacy while you were thinking about the issues that people face on a regular day.
Wow. All right. Thank you very much, sir. So, those whose speaking is a gifted talent, are we going to say that they also need to be consistent in speaking, or they have other means at which they can get better in speaking?
Interesting. Now, I think this comes to the question of whether great speakers are born or are made. I think that's really what you're trying to get at over here. Let me tell you something. Here is it. Once people discover that they are talented at something, then they devote much of their effort, much of their time, much of their attention to it. So you discover that the reason they got super good at it is not just because they are innately talented to do it. Now, I understand if they have innate talent to doing it, that means that they're going to excel more than every other person. They're going to rise to the top. In other words, they're going to be like the outliers when it comes to the speaking game. Now, the truth is this: speaking is a skill. It's a skill that is learned. Even people who do not have, everyone has the innate ability to communicate. It's only that people do not pay attention to being intentional about the way that they organize their words in a way that is very, very perceptive of what people are facing as challenges in the world, and in a way that is also very persuasive to the people who listen to them. So we who speak and what people see as maybe talented at it, where we discover that that is exactly what we are good at, then we have to start sharpening our skills. In other words, we have to start reading wise words. We have to start exposing our minds to information. We have to make sure that we know where people are hurting, so that when we speak to them, we are able to solve their problems. We have to learn about thinking very deeply about issues in life, so that we can help people discover the issues that they don't even know they have when we speak to them. So when they listen to us, they're like, I never thought about that. And that's what we do as speakers. We help people get that insight to life. Like, if not because he said it, I would have not even thought about it. But thank God he said it. Thank God she said it. When she said it, when he said it, I got aware of it. And now I started to do something about it. And that's why my life is better today. So I would say that even if it's a talent, that discovery of that talent is what makes us to give serious attention to developing it, so that people see that manifestation of excellence when we do speak.
All right. So would you say, you as a speaker, yours is an habit or a gifted talent or a skill?
I think it's a combination of all three, I must say. There are people who look at themselves and they say, I'm an introvert. So because I'm an introvert, I cannot be a very good speaker. And I'm like, look at me and have hope, I never, you guys know I just got married, but the truth is I never really asked the lady out. Like, I couldn't do it. Like, I was so scared of doing it. I was so shy. You can get the point. So if I could do it, if I could if I could get married, if I could actually speak before thousands of people, with my inferiority complex, with the very fact that I was shy, with the very fact that I was an introvert, or maybe I'm still an introvert to an extent, but when I do get to speak, I get out of my way. If I can do it, then I believe that anyone else can do it. So I would say really that for me, when I discovered that speakers actually served people a lot, then I made up my mind I was going to really get good at it. Then I learned in Proverbs 16 that the sweetness of the lips increaseth learning. And when I read that from the Bible, I was like, whoa! I mean, you see, David, you've got no excuse. You've got to have the sweetness of the lips. If the Bible even says it. And then when I read about David, who with the skillfulness of his hands and the integrity of his heart served Israel, and God commended that. My name is David, okay? And I said, I mean, that does not mean that if you're exerting super excellence in preaching, if you're exerting super excellence in the way that you communicate in church, that does not mean that you are desecrating God's service. In other words, you are giving your best to the master, okay? And then when I also read in Ecclesiastes 12 that the words of the wise as gourds and as nails fastened by the masters of assemblies given from one shepherd. When I read about the fact that because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge, he gave good heed and sought out acceptable words and make sure the words that were spoken were words of truth and were upright, and it's set in order many proverbs. And I'm like, whoa! I mean, these are things that I get from the scriptures, and I've got to make sure that I pursue the sweetness of the lips. So it's intentionality, and then the very fact that God has been so kind to me that I do not have a speech disability. I'm grateful to God for that.
Yeah, so I would say that most times we draw strength from the scriptures.
Yeah, we have no other source because that is the ultimate source of inspiration. The God who created the world with his word. I mean, who can be a better speaker than him?
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, so you would agree with me that speaking can be difficult. So how well do you cope with speaking? Like you said, you are an introvert. So how do you cope with it?
Interesting question. The truth is that speaking is difficult and we should be honest about it, particularly if you're going to do it in a professional way. Now, I need to say that there are two kinds of speakers. We have in the way that I say it, we have professional speakers. I am a professional speaker. I make my living from speaking. Okay, so I speak for a living. I when I train people, when I go to a conference and I speak there and I get like a paycheck, and stuff like that. I make my money from speaking. So much of what I do, involves speaking, and that's how I get my money. Okay, but there are also speaking professionals. In other words, you don't get your money from speaking. You do some work and then you get paid for that work. But one thing is this: you can actually advance your career by speaking, by becoming one who speaks even professionally, even though you're not a professional speaker. And so the question you asked me is this: like, speaking can be difficult, right? And so in that case, what do you do? Now, here is it. The truth is this: if speaking were easy, everyone would be a very great speaker. In fact, in the world, over 6.7 billion of people in the world currently are not amazing speakers. They are not professional speakers. They are not speaking professionals. And that's why when you go to a conference, you see like 10,000 people and just about 10 speakers. Okay, so it's a ratio of like 1 to 1,000. You can imagine. So here is it. Speaking is difficult, particularly if you have to do it in a composed way, in a very insightful way. You have to articulate yourself. You have to speak with so much insight and depth and profundity. You have to speak with so much persuasion and passion.
That aside being consistent or aside consistency, do we have any other means or any other things as to which can improve our speaking or improve us in speaking?
Here is the deal, right? You see, when we talk about consistency really is the deal. Consistency is the currency of improvement. If you don't get consistent at something, then you can't improve. Now, consistency is not a matter of time. as it is a matter of intensity and intentionality. So there are certain people who put in the hours, but they are not intentional enough about improvement and do not exert the intensity of effort that is necessary for them to improve. And that's why you can see someone who is into speaking for a very long time. Let's say someone who has been teaching for like 40 years, but is not a very good speaker. Why? Because that person had never been intentional about being a very good speaker and had not exerted that intensity of effort that will make him or her a good speaker, even though he or she speaks consistently every day for 40 years. You get a point. But then someone could, in 4 years, even in 4 months, exert that intentionality of purpose and then the intensity of effort and be able to improve astronomically from being an amateur speaker to being a very good speaker or a masterful speaker, as I like to say, in 4 months. So it's consistency is not about the length of time, but about the kind of determinativeness of intentionality and the intensity of efforts that we fix into the best practices of whatever we are trying to get better at, even if it's speaking. So when it comes to speaking, there are definitely a number of things that we have to be intentional about and to exert the intensity of effort on. So I like to call them the 7 practices of a great leader, of a great speaker, of a great writer. So the first definitely is devotion, because I'm a Christian. And even if you're not a Christian, it's been said that of all creatives, whether they're speakers or writers or poets or artists or painters, whatever, they always want to meditate. They want to have that serenity and calm of spirit. And that is what devotion does for us. But for us as Christians, we know it goes beyond that calmness and that stillness of mind. It's a communion with the great God of the universe, who is the maker of all things and even the maker of the mouth and the speech that comes out of our mouth. So that's devotion. The second really is service. Like you're serving God and serving others and then serving yourself. Then the third, I would say, is studying. Like you want to study. Now, studying really is you trying to gather information for the sake of something you want to accomplish. That's studying. So I'm going to differentiate studying, the third one, from the fourth one, which is reading. Reading or learning is what you do. Maybe you don't need it immediately, but what you do so that you can prepare yourself for the future that comes ahead of you. But studying has an almost immediate effect. You're working on something. Let's say I'm going to be speaking at a conference in the next 2 weeks. What I will be doing isn't going to be learning. I'm going to be studying for that conference, because I've got to disseminate a lot of information. I've got to gather statistics that I've got to use to drive home my points, the stories I would hear. Basically, I would be studying to gather information. It's been said that as speakers or writers or poets, we've got to read a forest of books in order for us to make our own little garden. So that's what we do when we do study. So we are scrambling about the forest and trying to gather some of the leaves, some of the seeds that could make our own little garden of our speech. So, and then learning is what you do to improve yourself, to improve. Let's say that you are not so good at time management as a speaker. You want to learn, you want to read, you want to listen to podcasts, you want to do all of those things, to improve that. So I've talked about devotion. I've talked about service. I've talked about studying. I've talked about learning. And now I'll talk about creating, whether it's creating a podcast, whether it's writing out a speech, whatever it is, just creating something. For me, it might be creating a new course. For me, it might be creating, like a new keynote because I'm a conference speaker. So as a conference speaker, you must have keynote addresses so that nothing ever catches you by surprise. You get a point. So you're creating, and for you as at EMMY'S vlog, you are constantly creating content. You get a point. And I think this content we are creating right now is not going to go live until maybe a few weeks from now or a few days from now. So what you're doing currently is you are crafting out time to create. So you must do that with intentionality and then the intensity of efforts, right? And so apart from creating, then you want to make sure that you socialize as well. I keep forgetting one particular thing. Networking, socializing. I keep forgetting one particular thing, but it doesn't matter. So whatever you got from this list of 7 or 6 things, if you do them consistently, and I like to say that you do 5 of them daily, and you do 7 of them at least 5 times in a week, you get a point. So that's what I would say. Those are things that you commit yourself to. And I trust that if you commit yourself to these things, you're going to become such a masterful speaker. And get some coaching, so that when you ever feel like quitting, talk to me. And, I'm going to help you quit, right? I'll help you quit quitting. You get a point. Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I would love to ask, for speakers out there who are listening to us, someone might ask that, I'm a speaker. What if I'm not consistent? What will happen?
Okay, let me say this. Maybe the way they often say it is this, say something like this. I want to be a speaker, but I don't know if I'm going to be consistent. So I want to improve myself as a speaker, but the issue I have is I don't know if I'm going to be able to hang on. So here's what I like to say. See, you are asking the wrong question when you're saying, will I be consistent? No, that's not the right question. The right question is this. Am I willing to be inconsistently consistent until a system of consistency sets in? Now, when you look at some of the greatest people in the world, and I can quickly give an example of preachers, because preachers that necessarily have to appear before their congregation at a specific time in the service every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Tuesday, every Thursday, every Friday, like there is a specific time like on the agenda of every service, and they've got to show up. So whether they are prepared or not, they've just got to show up. Now, so here is it. Like, you have to tell yourself, there will come a time in my life when a structure for consistency comes in. And that structure of consistency is a factor of necessity. No rhymes intended. Consistency, necessity. You have to put a necessity upon yourself. And the reason I think Emmy is consistent with her vlogging is because she's put herself under a sort of a factor. She has a factor of necessity. She has to live up to her promise in order for people to keep on returning to Emmy's vlog. So what I would say is this: stop bothering yourself about whether you be consistently consistent. Just think about this. Are you willing to be inconsistently consistent until a system for consistency sets in? You know what? Your people have to see you demonstrating. No matter how consistent or inconsistent you are, people have to see you demonstrating the very fact that you are passionate and you actually are in the game of speaking before they can now bring you to a place where they set you on a platform or on a pedestal that makes you show up every single time, that makes them set an expectation on you that you cannot but rise up to. So what I would say is this: if you can create a system of necessity, fantastic. If you can't, just keep on being inconsistently consistent, because someday a system for consistency, a system of factor of necessity is going to come in. But I still want to say something about that. I want to say this, that as I said earlier in the beginning, consistency is not about never having a downtime. In fact, it has been said that success is moving from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. So it doesn't matter if it doesn't come out good when you get on the stage, and then you feel sad for like 1 week. Cry, wash your face, rise up again, get on that platform and speak better next time. So until you get good at it, keep on speaking. As Aristotle said, excellence is not an act but a habit. So we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, it's a habit. So do it over and over and over again, and I can assure you that you can only get better.
One is sort of a personal question.
All right.
How Can you give us a briefing? Can you give us a briefing on how your consistency journey has been? Like, how have you had it? How was it? How is it going? How has it been? Like, how do you come this far on your consistency journey? Because I see you every now and then, you're always having one session or the other, back to back. And I keep wondering, how do you do it? How do you become this consistent?
First, I need to say I do not do speaking because I love to speak. I do speaking because I love to help people. And so speaking is just a medium for me to help people, right? And there are always people to help. You get the point. And I must say that there are days I don't feel like speaking. You know, it's ironic that when we start out in the speaking journey, we are seeking people to pay attention to us, like like we are seeking invitations, we are seeking people to pay attention to us. But let me tell you, when you get to this stage where I get to where I'm already living in right now, there are times you don't even want to talk to anybody. Trust me, like you are tired of the attention. Like there are so many demands on your attention. People must not see you online. There are several questions flying in. There are several invitations visiting your inbox, and you're like, could I just have a moment? You get a point. But as a professional speaker, right? There are a couple of things. Number one, you love people so much that you see them, they have challenges, they have questions, and you know that if they don't have their questions answered, it's not gonna be beneficial to them. And because you so much love people, your joy is quite bound up in their joy. You know, like when they're joyful, that kind of glimmer in their eyes, that kind of smile that they have on their faces when you answer their question, that's what brings you satisfaction. That's what brings you joy. That's what brings you fulfillment. And if you're not able to get it, if you're going to deny someone of that, something within you just says you're not doing good. You're not serving people. You're not fulfilling purpose. So there is that. And then another thing is this: if you're a professional speaker like me, if you don't speak, you won't eat. You know, if anyone does not work, let him not eat. So here, if you don't speak, you don't eat. You get a point? So that's a factor of necessity again. But apart from that, I must say that for me, I get a lot of feedback. People, you know, when I'm away, people call in and saying, "Coach, I mean, we've not heard from you. Hope you're fine." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm just dealing with life over here, and don't worry, I'm gonna be back." And when I get back, they're like, "Whoa, welcome back, Coach," you know, stuff like that. So yes, I have that blessing in my life, so that the people around me have been able to form a community of speakers. You know, as we have the Global Masterful Speakers Network. So for me, it's really something that makes my life feel so rich. I cannot almost live without it. So that's what I would say. Get yourself into a community of people that just make your life feel so rich by doing what you love to do.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Yeah, so a bonus question for those who are speakers, and like you said, when you started, you are begging for attention and the likes. So for those who are just starting, how would you encourage them? Because like we said, speaking is very difficult. So how would you encourage them to keep speaking when the attention is not there, the audience are not there, and it's just like they are the one just speaking to themselves?
What I would say to people who are just starting out, I would say adopt that kind of mindset as well, speaking to an audience of one. Like if it makes a difference for one person, if I show up and it makes a difference for one person, then I think I'm good. I think God is happy about that. Then I would also say, make sure that you develop your leadership skills. As a leader, you know you can never walk alone. If you're a leader and you're walking and no one is walking with you, then you are only taking a walk. You're not leading. So what you have to do is to invite people along the journey and put them on a platform. Don't put people in your audience platform. No. Put them on a platform where you guys can have an exchange of conversation. In other words, if you're going to be having an event, don't just be the only speaker there. Don't be like me in the very first conference I ever did. I was the speaker for 3 sessions. So I spoke for the first session, I gave them a break, and then I gathered them again. I spoke for the second session, and then I was done, and then I gathered them again, and I spoke for the third session, all in one day. That was crazy. I'm glad I made that mistake, but I don't want any of you to ever make that mistake. So be a leader. Have people around you, invite people to join you on the journey. And I can tell you, like, with the influence of other people, you would never speak to an audience that is so sparse, because those other people, particularly if they're more honorable than you are, if they're more knowledgeable than you are, if they're more experienced than you are, if they're more influential than you are, you can benefit from their influence, from their wisdom, from their light, and every other thing. And that way you'll be able to, serve people, not by really impressing them, but by inspiring and impacting them. Let that be your focus, and let it be that you really want to transform people so that they are not only enjoying your good voice, but so that after they've listened to you, they will enjoy a good life.
If you are new to this channel, please do well to subscribe and hit the notification bell so as to know when we upload new videos.
And don't forget to watch other episodes of the Consistency series. Thank you.